On a lot of these platforms, they've been holding me back from really going in and exposing what I really want to expose.
That's R. Kelly's former cellmate, and he's finally revealing what's really going down with the rapper behind bars. Because if you haven't heard, R. Kelly is going through it.
R. Kelly was then removed against his will by guards from the prison and was not allowed to be treated. And they are saying that basically this could kill him because of the blood clots and the care that they are alleging he is not receiving.
We've got all the details, and the situation involves some big names. Let's get into it. The murder game, fighting for life behind bars. Okay, so R. Kelly is really going through it behind bars, and a lot of what's been happening was kept under the radar. That is, until June 2025, when his legal team, led by attorney Bo Brindley, filed what might be one of the most explosive legal motions in recent memory. Filed in Chicago federal court, the motion demanded Kelly's immediate release to home detention, claiming that officials within the Bureau of Prisons, alongside members of the Aryan Brotherhood, were allegedly involved in a murder plot against him.
These are people who seek to kill Mr. Kelly, rather than allow the corrupt criminal conduct of those who manufactured his convictions be exposed.
But this wasn't just lawyers making dramatic claims to get their client out the joint. The motion included a sworn statement from a key witness, someone who claimed firsthand knowledge of the plot to body Kelly. The main character in these allegations is McKeel Glenn Stein, a terminally ill inmate who identified himself as a shot caller in the Aryan Brotherhood. According to a sworn statement from Stein, 3 Bureau of Prisons officials at the Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina, offered him freedom in exchange for Kelly's murder.
Mr. Stein, in his declaration, has set forth the reason that was given. The reason is that Mr. Kelly was about to expose some facts that would be extremely inflammatory and damaging to the Bureau of Prisons and the Department of Justice. And because of that, the Bureau of Prisons instructed Michael Glenn Stein to go to Butner and execute R. Kelly. And Mr. Stein made clear and gave us extraordinary detail when we spoke to Mr. Stein. We didn't use this until we actually went down and met with Mr. Stein for hours. And he told us in extraordinary detail that this is not the first instance, that this happens all the time, that the Aryan Brotherhood has been directed to commit murders and beatings at the behest of prison officials for years.
According to Kelly's attorney, Bo Brindley, Stein was told that Kelly was about to expose information that would be extremely inflammatory and damaging to the Bureau of Prisons and the Department of Justice. The solution, according to the allegations, was to have Kelly eliminated before he could spill that tea. But here's what makes this story even more twisted. Stein claims he was offered a very specific deal.
They have said that if he is to do this, he is a terminal cancer patient, he's going to die in the near future. That's a fact. And they have said that he will be transferred and he'll get the opportunity to walk away. And Michael Glenn Stein has a history of escaping from the Bureau of Prisons. He escaped previously. That's why he spent so long at the ADX Supermax in Florence. And all of a sudden, he was moved to this relatively low security facility at Butner and put near R. Kelly. That's a fact.
According to the allegations, Stein, who's dying from cancer, was told he would be transferred to another facility and given the opportunity to escape, allowing him to die as a free man rather than locked up. Stein has a history of escaping from Bureau of Prisons facilities and had previously been held at the ADX Supermax in Florence, which makes the escape offer particularly believable. But something unexpected happened. Instead of carrying out the alleged murder, Stein claims he had a change of heart. Stein allegedly arrived at Kelly's prison unit in March 2025 and was directed by BOP officials to kill Kelly. But instead of acting on the order, Stein informed Kelly of the plot. According to Kelly's attorney, Stein revealed that this type of arrangement, where prison officials allegedly direct gang members to commit violence, happens all the time, and that the Aryan Brotherhood has been directed to commit murders and beatings at the behest of prison officials for years. If this is real talk, it would represent systematic corruption of the federal prison system that goes way beyond Kelly's case. But the alleged plot didn't end with Stein's refusal. Kelly's attorneys claimed that in June 2025, they learned of a second Aryan Brotherhood member who was also directed by prison officials to kill both Kelly and Stein.
And that discussions have been had about poison in the food hall, about poison in the commissary. Discussions with Mr. Stein have been had about stabbings. These are the kinds of methods that have been discussed.
The allegations include specific methods that were allegedly discussed for carrying out the hit, including poisoning Kelly's food in the chow hall or commissary and stabbings. Following the filing of the emergency motion, Kelly's situation allegedly became even more messed up. Kelly was reportedly moved to solitary confinement at FCI Butner, where his legal team claims he is unable to contact his family and is in spider-infested conditions. Kelly's legal team argues that the solitary confinement is retaliation for exposing the alleged murder plot rather than protection. Kelly is allegedly too scared to eat prison meals or use commissary goods, believing they may be poisoned. But the murder plot is just one part of a larger conspiracy that Kelly's legal team alleges. They claim the entire case against Kelly was built on constitutional violations and prosecutorial misconduct.
Well, let me say it this way. It's not allegedly having evidence. We do have evidence, and one piece of evidence we've already presented in the form of a signed declaration from Keyshawn Mogadamudi, Robert's former cellmate. And what he describes is having been solicited by prosecutors who are offering him a reduced sentence in exchange for stealing Mr. Kelly's privileged attorney-client correspondence.
According to Kelly's attorney, they have evidence that Kelly's former cellmate was recruited by prosecutors to steal attorney-client communications. The cellmate, Keyshawn Mogadamudi, provided a signed declaration stating that prison guards facilitated the theft of these documents, which were copied by a Bureau of Prisons investigator and used in Kelly's trials. If this is true, it would represent a massive violation of Kelly's constitutional rights and could potentially throw out his conviction. Federal prosecutors have responded to these allegations with dismissive language that reveals their view of Kelly's claims. On June 16, 2025, prosecutors dismissed Kelly's murder plot allegations as fanciful, deeply unserious, and a mockery of the harm suffered by his victims. They also described Kelly as a serial and unrepentant child molester and argue that his allegations make a mockery of the harm suffered by his victims. Prosecutors argue that Kelly's placement in solitary confinement shows prison officials are taking his safety concerns seriously, contradicting the narrative of a murder plot. In a move that shows just how desperate Kelly's situation has become, his legal team has made a direct appeal to President Donald Trump for a presidential pardon.
Absolutely. We're going to seek every opportunity to, one, make sure that Robert Kelly doesn't get killed, and number two, to see that he is freed based on what we believe to be and will prove to be a corrupt prosecution, the kind of which President Trump has promised to eradicate.
Kelly's attorneys have publicly appealed to President Donald Trump for a presidential pardon, arguing that Kelly is a victim of prosecutorial misconduct and that Trump, having faced legal scrutiny himself, would understand Kelly's plight. The appeal to Trump appears to be strategic, citing Trump's recent commutation of the sentence of Gangster Disciples co-founder Larry Hoover as precedent. However, no pardon has been granted as of the latest reports. Kelly's case raises broader questions about the systematic targeting of powerful black men in America. His former cellmate Ronnie Bowe draws connections between Kelly's situation and other high-profile cases.
He filing about what they doing to all blacks in America. They violating the out of our human rights. R. Kelly case too. They violating that man human rights. Larry Hoover. Like, they violating his human rights. He got another bogus case.
Despite the murder plot allegations, Kelly's legal battles in the traditional court system have been largely unsuccessful. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Kelly's conviction and 30-year sentence on February 12, 2025, rejecting arguments about inadequate evidence, biased jurors, and improper use of racketeering laws. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjon, plans to seek U.S. Supreme Court review, citing concerns about prosecutorial overreach. However, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear Kelly's appeal of the Chicago conviction in October 2024. Despite the legal battles and alleged threats, Kelly has reportedly remained creatively active while locked up. In a March 2025 podcast interview with Inmate Tea with 8A NDP, he claimed to have written 25 albums while in prison. This is where the story takes a serious and unexpected turn. According to newly filed court documents, R. Kelly experienced a frightening medical emergency while in custody, an incident his legal team claims was the direct result of improper medication administered by prison staff.
So in the emergency filing, they allege that R. Kelly was giving an additional dose of medication by prison staff. And they're alleging that because of that additional medication that he was instructed to take and that he actually took, he suffered a overdose. So they say that R. Kelly woke up allegedly on June 13th and he felt faint. He was dizzy. He started to see black spots. He got up and he fell. He crawled to the door of the cell and he lost consciousness then. At that point, he was placed on a gurney. He was taken by ambulance to a nearby hospital because they tried to take him to the hospital inside of or associated with the facility that he's in, but they couldn't help him.
However, his physical and mental condition appears to be getting worse. Kelly has diabetes and has faced health challenges, including blood clots in his legs, which he claimed nearly killed him.
R. Kelly allegedly has been asking for months to get some medical attention to a swollen leg. R. Kelly's legal team says that once he was taken to the hospital for this overdose situation, R. Kelly brought up the swollen leg, and they allege that doctors there then took a look at the swollen leg and they found blood clots in R. Kelly's right leg, allegedly, in his left leg, in his lungs, allegedly. And R. Kelly's legal team is saying that R. Kelly was then told he should stay 7 days in that hospital for surgery, and then it would be an additional 2 weeks because of whatever care they were going to need to give him. But his legal team alleges that once the prison was contacted, R. Kelly was then removed against his will by guards from the prison and was not allowed to be treated. And they are saying that basically this could kill him because of the blood clots and the care that they are alleging he is not receiving.
And while the overdose raised serious questions, it's the voices from inside the prison, especially one cellmate, that are blowing the lid off everything. His former bunkie has stories that take this whole situation to a different level. Cellmate spilling tea and industry secrets. What we're about to put you up on is some next level stuff. We're talking about explosive testimony from Kelly's former cellmate, industry secrets that supposedly go all the way to the top of the music game, and revelations about what really happens when somebody who knows too much becomes a problem for some very powerful cats.
Well, on the way to the outside hospital, his team alleges that it was overheard someone in the ambulance from the hospital say this is going to open a whole new can of worms. R. Kelly's legal team then alleges that once he got to the hospital, it was then revealed that he had been giving an overdose quantity of medicine.
The main source for a lot of what we're about to break down comes from a dude named Ronnie Bowe, a former federal inmate who spent serious time locked up with R. Kelly and has since written a book about their conversations. But before we get into his claims, let me keep it real with you. These are allegations and testimonies that paint a picture of corruption and conspiracy at the highest levels. Some of this stuff is disputed, some of it can't be verified, but all of it needs to be heard because it sheds light on a system that might be more corrupt than any of us ever imagined. Ronnie Bowe, whose government name is Ronnie Bowe Williams, is a former Fed who describes himself as an author and the CEO of Grind Mode Inc. But what makes this cat important to our story is that he spent considerable time locked down with R. Kelly at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Chicago. And according to Bowe, the conversations he had with Kelly revealed some shocking truths about the music industry and what really went down that led to Kelly's downfall.
Yeah, we was never roommates. We was on the same unit for a period of time, but I was there. I came there in MCC Chicago, June 24th, 2019. And I think he came either in July or August. It was like a month or two, no longer than 3 months after I came.
But here's where it gets real interesting. Bowe claims that he was instrumental in getting Kelly moved from protective custody to general population.
So it's like, man, let's get, and I hollered at everybody, let's get Kels up here. So they sent the word to him, and Kels from there, he petitioned, he asked his lawyer, like, man, put that paperwork in and get me up out this. I want to go on general population.
According to Bowe, he had already built relationships with shot callers from different prison organizations, the Gangster Disciples, Latin Kings, Blackstones, and they all agreed that Kelly should be allowed in general pop. This is significant because it means some of the most powerful dudes in the federal system vouched for Kelly's safety and gave him protection. But the real tea comes from what Bowe claims Kelly told him during their conversations. And these ain't just casual jailhouse stories. These are allegations about industry conspiracies, stolen music catalogs, and systematic targeting by some very powerful forces. One of the most explosive claims Bowe drops is about Kelly's music catalog.
In one of your interviews, you said that you asked R. Kelly, or he told you, either one, that it was $1.2 billion, that he found out that his catalog was worth $1.2 billion. And once he started trying to figure out how he can get, the payments for that or whatever, that's when he said things kind of turned up on him.
According to Bowe, Kelly found out that his music catalog was worth $1.2 billion, making him technically richer than Jay-Z at the time. But here's the crazy part. Despite this massive catalog value, Kelly was struggling financially and had to stay on tour constantly just to keep the lights on.
Yeah, man, catalog worth $1.2 billion. So technically, they supposed to announce him as a billionaire before they announced Jay-Z as a billionaire. And when he realized that, he like, damn, I'm as big as Mike now. Like,
yeah.
And like, believe it or not, he wasn't making no money unless he went on tour. and did a show. He had to do shows and go on tour to survive.
This raises some serious questions about who was controlling Kelly's bread and why somebody with $1 billion catalog was living paycheck to paycheck. According to Bo's version of events, when Kelly started digging into where his money was going and trying to claim what was rightfully his, that's when the legal troubles started getting real heated. But maybe the most controversial allegations involve Jay-Z. According to Bo's account of his conversations with Kelly, there's a long history of beef between these two superstars that goes way deeper than their publicized business disputes.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, with that not happening, of course, because Pac ended up passing away, did R. Kelly go into detail on how him and Jay ended up working together and doing the best of both worlds?
You asked that at the perfect time, because that's kind of where this come from. Like, see, Jay-Z, he knew that Pac and R. Kelly was supposed to do best of both worlds together.
The story Bo tells is that Kelly was originally supposed to do best of both worlds with Tupac, but after Pac got killed, Jay-Z stepped in to fill that spot. According to Bo's account, Jay-Z saw this as his chance to elevate himself to the level of Biggie and Pac, but the collaboration apparently didn't go how Jay-Z wanted it to.
And then those negative emotions that Jay had, jealousy or whatever you want to call it, it fucked up the tour, because, you know, R. Kelly said that basically when they went to Madison Square Garden earlier that day, you know, he was getting random death threats.
According to Bo's version of Kelly's story, Kelly was getting death threats before their Madison Square Garden show, and when he got on stage, he saw cats in the crowd making threatening gestures. Kelly believed Jay-Z was behind these threats and bounced off the stage, which led to Jay-Z's people pepper spraying Kelly, but the allegations go even deeper than that. Bo claims that Kelly believed Jay-Z funded the surviving R. Kelly documentary through his ex-girl Dream Hampton, who was the executive producer.
Dream Hampton is the executive producer of Surviving R. Kelly. You know, that's her project, and that's Jay-Z ex-girlfriend, and, you know, he funded mostly all of her projects, if not all.
If this is true, that would mean one of the most powerful cats in the music industry deliberately funded a documentary designed to destroy Kelly's career and reputation. Bo's allegations don't stop with Jay-Z, though. He claims there's a systematic effort to blacklist artists who don't play ball with certain industry agendas.
I feel like R. Kelly was eventually blacklisted. I feel like I'm blacklisted. I feel like there's many other artists who probably got way more talent than most of the artists we hear in the industry that is blacklisted.
Bo describes his own experience of getting blocked from major platforms, claiming that when he tried to set up an interview with The Breakfast Club, they said that iHeart wouldn't allow me to do it because of the publicity surrounding my name. He suggests that powerful figures like Jay-Z have the connections to blacklist artists and prevent them from getting mainstream exposure. This paints a picture of an industry where talent ain't enough, where playing by certain rules and showing loyalty to certain people determines who gets to blow up and who gets buried. While Kelly was locked up, he faced some real danger. In 2020, while at Chicago's Metropolitan Correctional Center, Kelly got jumped by another inmate. The cat who attacked him was Jeremiah Shane Farmer, a Latin Kings member serving life. But according to Bo, there was more to this attack than what met the eye.
But right in the midst of that, for like 3 days in a row, was coming up there protesting on R. Kelly's behalf. So in the feds, they got this rule, like if they protesting around a building, we got to do emergency lockdown.
Bo explains that Kelly's supporters had been protesting outside the prison for 3 straight days, which led to lockdowns that stopped inmates from using phones or getting other privileges. This created mad frustration among the inmate population, who blamed Kelly for the disruption. But Bo also mentions that Farmer later claimed in the media that the government had him do that. This raises some disturbing questions about whether the attack was orchestrated by authorities rather than being a random act of inmate violence. What makes Bo's account particularly compelling is that he's not just making these claims in a vacuum. He's written a book about his experiences and filed lawsuits against federal agents, including one case where he sued DEA agent Timothy P. Gray and won a settlement. This gives him some credibility as someone who has successfully challenged federal authorities in court. Bo also describes Kelly as someone who refused to compromise his principles, even when it could have helped his career.
Because where we come from, like whether you was with a gang or not, we live by certain principles and codes. And in that industry, is a lot of that go on. Yeah. Like when you talk about selling your soul and that really go on. You know what I mean? This executive, you got this rich executive in the industry, and he could fuck over your career. He might want to play with your or something. He might want to play with your or something. But where we come from, it's like, what? And that's the type of R. Kelly was. R. Kelly told Quincy Jones, man, because of the God I serve, I can't get down like that, homie.
According to Bo, Kelly refused advances from powerful industry figures like Quincy Jones, which may have limited his opportunities and made him enemies in an industry where such compromises are allegedly expected. The picture that emerges from these cellmate revelations is of an industry built on corruption, where artists are controlled through blackmail, financial manipulation, and when necessary, legal persecution. But if these allegations are true, they're just the tip of the iceberg. The question ain't just what happened to R. Kelly in jail, it's whether what happened to him is part of a larger pattern of silencing people who know too much about how the entertainment industry really operates behind closed doors. But to really understand why R. Kelly became such a target inside and outside the system, we gotta rewind the clock and look at how all this started in the first place. How R. Kelly ended up behind bars. All right, let's keep it 100 from the jump. To understand what's really going down with Kelly in the pen, we got to go back to how this whole mess started popping off. See, the allegations against Kelly ain't nothing new. This drama been brewing since way back in the day. In 1994, when Kelly was 27, he went and married 15-year-old Aaliyah in some secret ceremony in Chicago. Now that's already suspect as hell, but it gets worse. They had to fake her ID, making it look like she was 18, but her parents shut that whole situation down and got it annulled in a 95. Come to find out later, somebody testified in court that Kelly's people dropped $500 to get a fake ID for baby girl, probably because they thought she might be pregnant. But that was just the beginning of this whole mess. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, mad women started coming forward. Tiffany Hawkins, Tracy Sampson, and others, all saying Kelly was on some inappropriate stuff with minors and dude was cutting checks left and right to make them go away. The pattern was clearer than day, but Kelly's money and fame was like a shield protecting him from any real consequences. The first time the law really tried to get at Kelly was in 2002. They hit him with 21 counts of child pornography after some nasty video surfaced showing him doing unspeakable things to what looked like a 14-year-old girl. Now you'd think with evidence like that, it's game over, right? Wrong. In 2008, Kelly beat all 21 charges. The alleged victim and her family wouldn't testify, and the jury couldn't be 100% sure the girl in the video was underage. For more than a decade after that, Kelly was moving like he was untouchable, still making music, still touring, still living like a king. But underneath all that, investigative journalists like Jim DeRogatis was building a case that would eventually bring the whole house of cards crashing down. The game really changed in 2017 when BuzzFeed dropped that explosive story, saying Kelly was running some kind of cult, keeping women locked up and controlling every aspect of their lives. The report said Kelly was taking their phones, stopping them from talking to family, and basically treating them like prisoners. That's when the #MuterKelly movement started popping off, with people calling for boycotts of his music. But the real knockout punch came in 2019 with that Surviving R. Kelly documentary on Lifetime. That joint featured mad women, including Kelly's ex-wife Andrea and girls like Johanna Pace, all talking about the physical and mental abuse they said they went through. That documentary was so powerful, it got RCA Records to drop Kelly, and artists like Lady Gaga and Celine Dion started removing their collabs with him from streaming platforms. Within months of that documentary dropping, the walls started closing in real quick. In February 2019, Cook County hit Kelly with 10 counts of aggravated criminal abuse involving 4 females, 3 of them minors between 13 and 16. But them state charges was just the appetizer. In July 2019, the feds came through with the real heat. 18 federal charges including child sexual exploitation, child pornography, trafficking, kidnapping, forced labor, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. They arrested Kelly and held him without bail, saying dude was a flight risk and a danger to the community. The federal cases were straight up devastating. In September 2021, after a 6-week trial in Brooklyn, a federal jury found Kelly guilty on all 9 counts, 1 racketeering charge, and 8 Mann Act violations. The prosecution painted a picture of Kelly running a whole criminal organization for almost 3 decades. They said Kelly had managers, bodyguards, and assistants helping him recruit and abuse girls, boys, and women for decades. 11 victims, including Aaliyah, came to court and testified about all kinds of physical and psychological abuse, most of it happening when they were still minors. They talked about how Kelly had rules, calling him daddy, not being able to move around freely, couldn't even look at other men. If you broke the rules, you got punished with beatings and forced to do stuff, some of which he recorded. On June 29, 2022, Judge Ann Donnelly hit Kelly with 30 years in prison, saying his actions showed violence, cruelty, and control, and that he used his fame to prey on vulnerable people. 7 survivors got up in court and told their stories about how this man destroyed their lives, while Kelly sat there showing no remorse at all. But the punishment wasn't done yet. In September 2022, a Chicago federal jury found Kelly guilty on 6 out of 13 charges, 3 counts of making child pornography and 3 counts of getting minors to have This trial was all about videos showing Kelly abusing his 14-year-old goddaughter, who they called Jane, in court. Jane herself testified, confirming she was the girl in those videos and saying Kelly abused her hundreds of times before she turned 18. In February 2023, Judge Harry Leinenweber gave Kelly another 20 years, with 19 years running at the same time as the New York sentence and 1 year added on top, bringing his total to 31 years. The man who used to rock stages all over the world and live in mansions is now fighting for his life in a completely different type of spotlight, one where federal agents, white supremacist gangs, and powerful industry people all supposedly got an interest in making sure he stays quiet forever. As of the latest reports, Kelly remains in solitary confinement at FCI Butner Medium 1, with no reported resolution to his emergency motion. A hearing was scheduled for June 20th, 2025, before U.S. District Judge Martha Packold, but the focus appears to be on whether the Chicago court has jurisdiction over Kelly's claim, given that he is incarcerated in North Carolina. Kelly is not due for release until December 2045, when he'll be 78 years old, if he survives that long. Given the allegations about threats to his life and his deteriorating health, that's a very big if. The question that remains is whether we'll ever know the full truth about what really went down with R. Kelly in the pen, with powerful forces allegedly working to keep him quiet, and with Kelly himself facing what might be a life sentence. The secrets he claims to know may die with him. The king of R&B may have fallen from grace, but the shockwaves from his fall are still reverberating through the halls of power, and they may continue to do so for years to come. This ain't just about one man's story anymore. It's about a system that allegedly preys on those who know too much, and what happens when the streets meet the highest levels of government and industry corruption. Like the video? Check out more just like it by clicking the suggested videos on your screen.